everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Eddrick Show. I'm your host, Eddrick Jerome. Thank you for tuning in to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button as we build this thing from the ground up. You can catch us on Instagram at Eddrick Show and also on Facebook at The Eddrick Show. And a very special guest today, somebody I've been doing my research on and just a really, really interesting and talented guy. Melvin Adams is a much sought after motivational speaker. He's spoken to more than 3 million young people during the past 20 years. His engaging style and compelling biography has allowed him to connect with young people and give them a hopeful message, an empowering message for the future. Through faith and hard work, Melvin was able to overcome a challenging upbringing in his native Houston, Texas, and he used basketball to become a 2-time NCAA All American at San Jose Christian College. Melvin went on to play for the historic Harlem Globetrotters and ascended to the role of team captain for that legendary franchise. I am honored to welcome Melvin Adams to the Eddrick Show. Melvin, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm just trying to be like you, Eddrick, man. I'm so proud and honored to be on your show, man.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the love, man. So let's get into it. You're very open and honest about your tough family situation growing up in Houston. Tell us about that and how were you able to overcome some of the challenges you faced, especially with drama, like family drama, man?
Yeah, I believe that, your family is a direct result of how you see life, how you look at your future, how you feel about yourself. Me being a mama's boy, my whole life was trying to please my mom. And I think no parent got this stuff all right. I mean, we get into it and we learn it on the job, but hurt people, and heal people, heal people. So my mom was she was a loving, hardworking woman, but it was kind of hard for her to be like encouraging because she had a lot of hurt. So, my dad was abusive, but he wasn't around. So there was a lot of, and then growing up, in poverty, but with this dream. And so it was just this desire, man, to, if I could just score more points, make more money, my mom would love me. And I think a lot of kids or people in general, when you often ask the question, why do we do what we do? There's always some underlying, people pleasing or workaholic or, because we're trying to get those words. And I'm proud of you. You're doing a good job, and you belong to something.
Man, I tell you, because it's overcoming not just the physical nature of poverty and things like that, but it's the emotional and the spiritual and constantly trying to find something to build yourself up, man. So obviously basketball came into your life at some point. So when did you realize, okay, I got these basketball skills. This is my ticket. This is my ability. This is my means to maybe improve my situation.
Well, man, what's funny? I played football. My uncle played with the Oilers before they were the Texans. So football came real easy for me. I was always fast. Everybody thought, hey, man, he's going to make me football. My brother was older and he loved basketball. So I remember reading his journal and he said that he wanted to play professionally. Of course, he had migraine headaches. So I loved my brother. So his dream became my dream. So I started playing basketball. So football was easy. Basketball was hard. So I quit what was easy to go play was hard. And I think that's a good message in life, that you got to stop being comfortable. If you're comfortable, then you're never going to grow. You got to be able to do things that's going to stretch you. That's going to maybe get you upset. You're not going to like what you're doing, but that's what's going to make you not just great in a sport, but in life. And I think from that moment, I just became a workaholic, man. Work. My high school principal used to come to school, and I was a hurting kid. She would tell me I was awesome. I didn't even know what those words meant. I thought she was using big words to make me look stupid. She said I was amazing. She gave me my first birthday party, and I went from making all F's to being on the honor roll to being the first one to graduate from college in my family at that time. My high school coach, he drove me to one of a real rich area in Houston. And I remember him taking me out of my environment and showing me something that I could achieve. And of course, you can't do that now. Teachers would go to jail, you know what I mean? But right. He did that, and so so it was just people like that, man. And I realized that the gift, and I just started practicing. So it was, never went to my high school prom, kissed a girl like my junior in college, like everything was hoop. I had to make it because I'm 5'8". So I wasn't, 6'6". I didn't have all the physical ability. So I had to outwork you. So when you would sleep, I was working. When you woke up, I was working. And that's, again, that sounds good on the success side, but really it was a little boy who just wanted his mom to say she loved him. That's really the reality of that.
Wow, that's powerful. So San Jose Christian College, man, you get there and suddenly All American, man. So tell
Yeah.
us about that journey and when it's like you
Oh
looked
man.
up and
So
it's like, let me
I go
ball
to
out up here, man. Let me do this.
yeah. Well, see, I got my first scholarship was to a school called Hill Junior College, and
Okay.
it was so flat you could see your dog run away for 2 weeks. So we get there, and the coach name was Coach Roberts. He sat me down at the end of the year, and he looked at me in the face. He said, "You'll never play college basketball. Said you're too little, and if you do play, they're gonna call you windshield wiper because they're gonna swat your shot."
Mm.
And I don't know if he had been drinking Haterade or graduated from Hater High School, but that inside motivated me more. I was already motivated. So my high school coach was connected with a lot of people. So I go over to Europe and I play with Christian Layton, Alonzo Mourning, Billy Owens, and coach named Mel Hankerson, who coached BJ Armstrong, who played with Michael Jordan
With the Bulls, right? Right.
with the Bulls. So he ended up taking a job at a school called the Masters College in LA in San Fernando Valley. So he calls me when I get home and says, "Hey man, I saw you play. I got a full scholarship. You're gonna be my starting point guard." And of course, every kid in Texas wants to go to California. The gas prices were so high in LA, the Crips and the Bloods was riding together. But I wanted to go to California. So I'm so excited, man. I pumped up, I fly to California. I'm seeing all the beaches. This is amazing. And my grades was bad. And so I was like, man, another year. I got redshirted my first year, redshirted my second year. And I was kind of discouraged. I was down. There was no Eddrick show to watch you and motivate you at that time. But now it is. So if you ever need motivation, listen to the Eddrick show.
Right on, man.
And so I was just hurt, man. And so I'm walking through campus. My assistant coach said, "Hey, man, there's a coach at San Jose. They're taking a team to Argentina and they need a point guard." So I called the coach up, and the coach he figured that I didn't want to go to that school because the school that I was at was ranked in the top 10, and their school was like in the Rosa Parks section in the back of the bus. You know what I mean? They was horrible. And so I was like, "Yeah, coach, I'd love to talk about that." And of course, he laughed because he didn't think that I would leave such a big program to go to a smaller one. So I go to Argentina, meet the coach, man, amazing coach. He was a great guy. And ended up going to the school. They had won like 5 games in 5 years. They were like the number 1 ranked team in the nation if you read your newspaper upside down. And so I get to the school, and of course, we end up winning the national championship. My junior year comes, but we got a bunch of freshmen, but they were watching my work ethic. We was okay that year, but my senior year, their sophomore year, we won the national championship again. But the cool part is when I graduated, those sophomores that became juniors won 2 national championships after I left.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, what type of legacy will you leave? Like, your children will take the Eddrick show to a whole nother level. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy how our kids like make our dream becomes like their dream. It's weird. That was kind of deep, Eddrick. I didn't think about that.
No, man. Your story, like I say, it's typical, but it's unique because not only were you able to parlay your basketball success and your basketball skills to a 4-year university and graduate, but man, Harlem Globetrotters. But hold on, before we do that, put a pin in that. Let me come back to that. Quick aside, California, we have this law now where collegiate athletes can market themselves and actually make money now. So as someone who was a college athlete at an elite level, what's your take on that? Where athletes now being able to maybe get a little bit of the pie, man?
Well, man, what I see is that they're making so much money off these kids. I mean, I think we don't have no idea of how much. And I went to a smaller school. And so when we won the national championship, they got a lot of money because, we went in the championship. So these kids, they're marketing these kids. They're marketing the program, but the kids come because they want to make it to the NFL or NBA or Major League Baseball. And I think that's awesome, man. I think it's a great idea. I think, when you get a kid that, you have to teach like money management because you'll get a kid like me and where I came from, I wouldn't have known what to do with that. I would have, who knows? So you have to have some kind of accountability, somebody in your, but typically they don't have time to do that. But I think if I'd have been playing out, man, I would have tore that up. Just marketing. Oh man, I would tear that up.
Man, it's ongoing too. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think your point is, even with kids who aren't athletes in the schools, basic financial literacy, what's a savings account, what's a this, what's a that. I think that's sorely needed, man. And it's up to us, like you said, my parents taught me. I taught my girls about, hey, you got to understand finances, you got to understand net, you got to understand taxes, right? If you don't understand that, then you can make a lot of mistakes. So yeah, I'm glad these kids are able to quote unquote cash in. And, hopefully they'll be able to help their families down the road. and be able to take some of their talents and improve their uplifting.
Yeah.
Okay, so done with college, whatever. How did you get to the Globetrotters? And I'm a Globetrotter fan, like I told you before we came on, man. Globetrotters, one of the most storied franchises in the world, not just in the United States. Global brand, ambassadors, just history. Bob Gibson played for the Globe. I mean, all this legacy. So how did a kid from Houston, Texas get to not only be a member of the Harlem Globetrotters, but also became a team captain? Tell us about that process.
Man, what was funny was because I led the nation in scoring in California, that brought a lot of publicity being in California. And I went over to New Zealand and played over in Poland and Argentina and Africa. And I remember coming home and I was, just playing at there's a rec called Buffandi here in Houston. This is where all the NBA players play. So I went there one day and I'm dribbling, right? And the guy knocked me down and I'm on the ground, but I'm still dribbling. And I get back up, kind of go between the leg, kind of like an Eddrick move back in '87.
Right.
And I tell people, you never know who's watching you. You never know who's there. And so the Globetrotters coach was actually there that day. And he saw me. And so he invites me to a neighboring YMCA. And he asked me, have I ever played baseball? I'm like, yeah. He said, well, can you dribble and slide? And I don't know if Kyrie pats the ball. He's a real good. So I was real good at patting. So he gives me the pads. I do the slide, and we did it for about 3 days. And I think the fourth day that I came, he had a ticket for me to go to Orlando. So I fly to Orlando, Florida, which is where our training camp was, Wild World of Sports. And when I was 10 years old, I went to a Globetrotter game, and Curly Neal came and shook my hand and rubbed my head, and that impacted me so much that I ended up becoming the new Curly.
Mm-hmm. So
it's amazing. Like even to athletes, you don't realize the power you have in inspiring. Whatever it be, it don't have to be sports. It can be anything. You can inspire people. You're a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a radio host, whatever. You can inspire people, make the world a better place.
Yeah, Curly Neal, man. I was a kid. My parents took me to see the Globetrotter. I got to shake his hand too. But Curly Neal, Meadowlark Lemon, all of these just legendary players. So what was it like, man, when you put on that iconic uniform for the first time, man?
Man, it was, I'm a really emotional guy. I remember, Eddrick, the first day, it was actually our first game. It was Wild World of Sports. I could remember it like I could see your face. And I put the uniform on and I'm looking in the mirror. There was a 6'9" kid. He played at some D1 school. And I started crying. And he was like, man, why you crying, man? You're all soft like that. And I said, man, it took a lot of hard work to get here. He said, me too. I said, man, you 6'9". Like, man, when a coach walk into a room, they gonna see you. I'm 5'8" with high heels on. They ain't gonna see me. So it was all of that pain, like talking about from getting red shirted to the coach saying you're not good enough, to all those turnovers, to people, you know what I mean? It was all of those things. And it was crazy because I remember like 20 years after I had retired, I came back to speak to the top athletes in Texas. And it was Coach K from Duke and Coach Calipari from Kentucky and all of these big name coaches. And Coach Roberts, that from Hill Junior College, the school I told you, that coach, he was there. And I remember walking up to him. He had no idea who I was. And I said, hey, Coach, you probably don't remember me, but 20 years ago, you told me something that changed my life. And he says, hey, man, it's all about motivating the kids. So I go in the back. Prior to that, this was the same guy who told me I was too little, never played. So I'm in the back. They introduced me to the stage, and I come out, and I said, first of all, I want to thank Coach Roberts, who 20 years ago, who said I never played college basketball, told me I was too little, told me if I did play, they would call me windshield wiper. And I want to thank you, because if it wasn't for you, I never would have worked as hard as I did. So to put the uniform on, and I didn't even know how famous the Globetrotters were. Like, man, I mean, it was like everywhere we went was like the Beatles.
Yeah.
I mean, people just flocked. And so to be a part of such a prestigious organization and being able to travel all around the world was like, it was just life-changing.
People, sports fans know it, but people don't realize you can't be a scrub and be a Globetrotter, man.
Yeah, no.
You've got to, these are elite basketball players who most of them could play in the NBA. They could play top level colleges. So the skill level that it takes, because you're not just playing ball, it's actually a different skill set on the basketball court with the 40-foot shots and the dribbling it. So talk to us about the skill set you needed to develop once you became a Globetrotter.
Yeah, so not only do you have to be able to play, but you have to have personality, because Globetrotters are more than just basketball players. We're ambassadors, so we have to be able to talk on the radio, on media, get the message across of, unity and bringing people together. The whole history of the Globetrotters. And I think that one thing I used to always say is, being Mr. Globetrotter, I used to say that you'll never see the Globetrotters on TV bragging about how much money we make, but we promise to give dollar smiles every night. Mm-hmm. And I think that one of my skill sets was, obviously, I could dribble, and then the personality. Because I tell people, kids, sometimes they only think that I can make it to the NBA. I'm like, man, you can go overseas and make good money overseas. It's about the same amount, sometimes even more than you would probably make in the NBA. And so the Globetrotters, like I said, we had guys that came that could jump out the gym, that was like, man, NBA bound, either had bad attitudes. And that just doesn't fit with the Globetrotters. So with the Globetrotters, you have to be a great athlete, but you have to be a great person of great character. And not all the guys can speak, but they have great personalities. So I wish that all sports was like that. Like, we would look for character sometimes over ability. So we won't hear a lot of the things that we hear, like the abuse and the drugs. We tend to go with character over the ability. Ability is important. I'm not saying that, but
absolutely
the character.
Absolutely. So Globetrotter career starts winding down. Like I said, you're captain, you're ambassador. Your Globetrotter career ends, and now you make another transition, man. So tell us about the transition and what was the journey like, going from Globetrotter international stardom to motivational speaker, where you're imparting everything that you've learned to these kids and people to try to motivate them.
Prior to me getting with the Globetrotters, I had been traveling speaking. I wasn't traveling like as much as I was after the Trotters, but I was, had been in Texas and been a couple places. And so when we would go to a lot of these games, man, I think the organization did their study about me as an athlete, but they didn't do the study about me as a speaker. Because there were many games we would go to that, man, there was so many people there, like, with cards saying, Melvin, love, stuff like that. So the coach is like, how do these people know you? And I said, well, I came and spoke in their town. So it was kind of, the Globetrotters kind of put it on a bigger scale. And I think after I had retired from the Trotters, man, the doors, because just like you're talking about, everybody loves the Globetrotters. Everybody that you meet, every principal, every corporation, every corporate president had some kind of experience with the Harlem Globetrotters. And that's the key that really opens up the doors to all of these opportunities to speak. And it all started off kind of doing some elementary schools, and then that took off. Then we started doing middle schools, and then high schools, and corporations. And now, because of the pandemic, a lot of hospitals, they need people to come in and make them laugh and encourage them. I'm being kind of conservative with you, but like, I do a lot of comedy. So, so it's like, especially at this time, we're so divided, more than ever, the need to come out and motivate and inspire people that people have lost jobs, people are struggling. It's a perfect time to just motivate, make people smile, let them know that everything's going to be okay. And,
Yeah, for real. I talked earlier, and we talked about you really, you've spoken to a lot of teens and young people over the years. So the kids today, man, they're not the same kids 10, 15 years ago. They're not our generation. So how have you been able to adjust your message to connect with these kids today who have so many more different means of influence? And, how have you kept your message fresh, man?
Well, one of the things I tell people, even as an athlete, when I came into San Jose, I watch people, and I watch strengths, and I watch your weaknesses. And if you put me on a horrible team, you give me a while, and we'll make that team great. And it's understanding you gotta study, like you were saying, study this generation. So I started watching the movies. I started listening to their music. At that time, my kids was watching SpongeBob, Thomas the Train. And so I was just watching it all the time because they was watching it. So I would go to these schools and, man, to say these little names, and these kids would just crack up. Yeah. So I feel like sometimes, man, if I'm 50, but I feel like I understand the older generation, but I also understand the younger generation. And I'm kind of a mediator between those two to help both sides kind of understand each other. Because like you said, this generation is a whole YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the whole Twitter deal. So you have to be so good. I've studied my craft, just like in basketball. I worked. So same thing, I studied in my craft. And then, once you got that, it just took off. And it's just, like I said, it's about relating and being real and being honest. I think so many speakers get up and you talk about success, but you got to talk about where you came from too, because most people are there. So they can't really connect with that success. They want to know, like, so I'm kind of real brutally honest, but I use comedy to talk about my childhood. And then of course I put basketball tricks in there. And so of course it's just a whole big comedy show. And then I would say about the first 30 minutes is just comedy. And then the last 20 minutes, once I start telling them my real story, they're blown away because they're like, man, why are you so energetic? And you came from that type of environment. So I use this to say that it doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is where you're going. So.
Wow. Well, like I said, I admire you, man, because you've taken your platform and you're putting good and spreading hope and love in the world, which is sorely needed. Got a couple minutes left. So I'm going to shift the gears a little bit right now again and go back to something I saw on the internet and doing my research. And you can always trust what you see on the internet. So I want to make sure it's cool. But did I see a video of you and a young Steph Curry in a gym practicing years like 2010, something like that? And the reason that's so important to me is because I've had a lot of conversations in my barbershop and on Facebook that, to me, Steph Curry brought Globetrotter-like skills to the NBA and used it to win. I mean, 45 footers. So when you were able to practice with him and what you're seeing with Steph Curry now, tell us about that what that was like, man.
So that was cool. I think that was his second year in the league. He had got injured.
Okay.
He was injured or something. I think it may have been his second or third year in the league, something like that. It might have been something because those times are, but I know he was with the Warriors.
Okay.
And his brother, Seth Curry, was, so they have this all-star game. It's North Carolina against South Carolina. And I was like the coach for Seth's team.
Okay.
So we're coaching, whatever. And so I look up in the stands and I see Steph Curry and, and Dale Curry and his mom. And so at halftime, they had me speak and I was doing some tricks. And so I saw him in the stands and I brought him out. Amazing guy, man. I mean, so humble, awesome family. And I think that's why he's so successful, because I think he has his head on right. He came from humble beginnings. And I even share that story. He had no college offers his senior high school, none. We're talking about MVP guy who just broke the 3-point record,
right?
And we're talking about a kid that nobody wanted him. He was too skinny, and then he goes to some no-name school, Davidson, and puts him on the map. And I think that's always been his drive to prove people wrong. And I think that's a great message for people in life. You know what I mean? One person may think you're not that good, and another person may think you're amazing, and that one person can literally change your life. And so you keep doing your show, man. It's gonna take off. It's gonna be nationally known, globally, and your show is gonna be a show that's gonna inspire people and motivate people and make the world a better place, man. I'm gonna just say I knew you, man, back. I
appreciate it, man. It's something I enjoy doing. Like you, I think it's far too easy to put out negative vibes in the world. You really got to put out positivity, especially with your family, your circle, man, because you get it back. And we haven't really talked about it, but faith plays a real big important in part of your message. So maybe talk a little bit about faith and how that's motivated you over these years.
Yeah, man. And I think that's so true. And I think it's so true, man. Like I wake up every day, like it's negative stuff all around us. I mean, all around us, but it's also good things all around us. And so I choose to look at the good things, which is why it makes me be able to make everybody around me feel better. We got a little thunderstorm.
Oh yeah.
But and so, man, when I was 17, I gave my life to to Christ, man. And I started preaching at that time. And God kind of gave me the desire to keep playing, but to play it for a different reason. It wasn't about me. And again, I got caught up because, you're success and you're on TV and all this stuff. And you go through the prideful moment, but then he humbles you. And then I began to realize that, I'm 5'8". I don't look like a normal basketball player. My background wasn't the typical. And so for me, man, like I tell people, if I have to tell you I'm a Christian, you should be able to see it in everything that I do. So in my early years, I think I pushed more people away because I was just spiritually goofy. And I started just kind of shutting up and just start kind of living it, because it's a lot of people talk, but their lives, their public success is their private failures. And so I try to just love people. And then when they see that, they go, wow, like you stayed a little extra to sign that kid's autograph, or you did an extra assembly, even though that wasn't in your contract. I think it's little things where you take time to talk to the janitor, or you go to a volleyball game, not because it's in your contract, but it's just because you really love people. I just recently did a movie in Oklahoma called Love Leaders. And they filmed me at this school, and it's just who I am, man. I'm going around, talk to the players. I talk to them like as a group, and I went to their practice, and this lady comes up to me and she says, man, she was crying. I'm like, she said, man, you like the real deal. I said, what you talking about? She said, man, it just flows out of you. I said, because I never got into this to be famous. I got into it because, to be honest, I love people. And so I want to see good in people, because there's good in everybody. There's some crazy people, don't get me wrong, but there's really some good people, great people in the world. So I just want to just let my light shine. And at the end of the day, people say, man, it was something different about that speaker, was something different about him. And obviously that's my relationship with God. So.
Right on, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, man, to come on the Eddrick Show and just share your story with us, man. And so we'll put some information in the description. But if people want to get a hold of you, they want to connect with you, get you out to speak to their groups, how can they get a hold of you, man?
Well, you can call Peggy Murky, and her number is 281-859-8810. And her website is motivationalmessages.net. That's motivationalmessages.net.
Okay.
And if you just Google, "Can you hear me now?" you'll see it. So.
All right, man. Well, we'll definitely put all that in the description. And so, Melvin Adams, again, continued success, man. All the best to you, and just keep doing what you're doing. Really appreciate you coming on the Eddrick Show today.
Well, thank you, man, for letting me be here, man. I appreciate you.
Right on. Hope we can have you on again, man.
I will. Anytime you need me, man, I'm there.
You got it. All right. This has been an Eddrick Show. You're welcome, man. I guess it's been Melvin Adams. We will put all his information in the description. Please hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell so you can get our notifications when we come out with something new as we grow this thing from the ground up. And of course, we always promise you intelligent conversation with interesting people. I am your host, Eddrick Jerome. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode.